Hey, what's up guys, it's Liam or Wiggle on your Overwatch, back with a new video. Today we're going to be talking about the whole new meta and the variation of heroes that are going to be great to pick in the new season, and it's looking to be a very good season, much like the last after the Mercy changes where quite a few heroes are viable, but we're kind of going into a place where maps are really dependent on what heroes you pick. So today we want to talk about the best and worst of all of that and all the winners and losers. Now at your request, I'm going to try and put as much gameplay of the hero I'm talking about that I can. Now, I don't play every hero, so I'll try to at least keep the hero on my team so we can talk about how all of this works out. I'm going to do this a little bit differently, and we're going to talk about some team comp setups first, and then I'll talk about the individual heroes. And there's a lot of really cool ones to talk about this time around. But this is a very important season going into, and it's not so much about predicting anymore, it's about look how many great viable comps there are at the minute. So with no one being super dominant in the game right now, being able to play Death Ball is a really good thing again. You want to take King's Row attack, run in with a Reinhardt. It's going to do you really good. When you play a map like Gibraltar, you probably want to take a dive comp and run up to the high ground, but maybe have a soldier go up there with you. The dive comps and the split comps are back as well. Being able to bunker up with an Orisa and a Moira and a Mercy or whatever support pick you like is going to be a really strong thing for you as well. There's like 4 or 5 super meta comps right now, and even something like Quad Tank, which isn't necessarily amazing, is really good in matchmaking. So with all of that in mind, guys, I want you to think, when I talk about the heroes specifically, how you would fit them in a comp on the map that you play. Oasis is always amazing for Pharah, but Last Point Kings probably isn't. And that's the meta we're at, and it's really exciting. So let's get into the heroes. So we're going to talk about supports first, because they've dictated the meta forever. It feels like we've had a very dominant Lucio meta and Ana meta and then Mercy for the longest time. But we're also in a good place where most of the supports are viable depending on where you pick them. Now, we already did a video on Mercy and how her viability is dependent on the map and the heroes that you pick with her, but she's still an incredibly strong support pick to have. She's a healer at the end of the day, but her damage boost is extremely powerful for propping up a teammate that's playing Soldier or Mccree or Widow or even Pharah. A lot of the ranged threats benefit big time for a Mercy. Also, we can use the fact that these ranged heroes are so far away that the Mercy can more reliably still get that res off. Valk is still used at the pro level as a complete team fight winner when you have the high ground, and that mid-fight res is still very important. Mercy is massively underrated in the matchmaking meta. It just depends where you pick her now. You can't pick her with a dive comp anymore and go instantly res a Winston. That's just not going to work. So other support picks are ones you're going to want to consider depending on that type of team comp. But if you're bunkered up behind an Orisa and ranged threats, Mercy is going to be your go-to pick. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about Zen. He's pretty much in the same place that he was before, right at the top of the meta. Zen's amazing in most team comps. In his ranged threat is always amazing with his right click. Being able to heal a Genji from a distance and throw out Discord is unmatched and still a top of the meta pick, but not really moved in position. Now, Lucio is a little bit in this similar place as well, where speed boost is great if you've got the right comp for it. Lucio and Zen's coming out a lot in the pro scene for dive comps in particular, and something you will want to consider running. Unfortunately for Ana, she's just kind of in the same place as she's been for a while, where she's amazing if you're good enough with her, which unfortunately isn't a lot of people because there's other reliable picks out there, the ones that we've spoke about already. The fact that she can hit a sleep dart and anti-nade an entire team really messes like a Moira up because you can't get that mass healing out, but the problem is trying to actually leverage that. And then when something does dive your backline, can you hit a sleep dart on it every single time? Ana's a great pick and she's middle of the pack, but you've got to be really good, and I'm not, and I don't think many people are. She's just really tough, and honestly I think she's a hero they might even buff slightly sometime in the near future. The last two to really talk about here are Moira and Bridget. Of course, Bridget is not out yet, but Moira is an amazing matchmaking pick in particular. She seems exceptionally OP at times just because of the raw amount of healing that she can do, but at the same time, if you pick her in the wrong comp on the wrong map, like attack Numbani with a dive comp, you're just not going to get that healing out. You're better off with other options. But Moira's healing on the big tanks and the very popular triple and quad tanks that come out at the minute is just completely unmatched. She does the best base raw healing in the game, heal things in front of you, get your ult in like 5 seconds and roll team fights out from there. Honestly, if you're someone that likes to play Mercy but maybe you're not in the right comp for her, Moira might be your next best pick. Just make sure you're throwing out them healing orbs and not the damage ones. No one likes a DPS Moira. Symetra and Bridget are the last two, and I leave them there because we don't really know what's going on with them. Bridget's on the PTR and Symetra's also going to be getting changed soon. Bridget doesn't offer a lot of healing or do anything particularly special over other heroes. We think that she's going to be very necessary in Reinhardt comps, but how often do you see Reinhardt anyway? Well, we'll get onto that in just a second, but until Reinhardt is better, I think Bridget just doesn't really have a place. You can't play her in a dive comp. You can play her brawling on point with the Rein because that's where she shines, but you can't really play her defensively because if you're stood behind an Orisa shield, well, you're not doing a lot as Bridget, and when you're not doing a lot and getting out damage, you're not healing your team, and when you're not healing your team, you're basically just Torb on attack or something. So Bridget is in a weird place, and we'll see what other changes they make to her and Symetra included. Now Reinhardt, the first of the tanks we'll talk about, has moved up in the meta, but he is still quite a niche pick. Winston and D.Va, of course, really strong and haven't moved either, so that just keeps Rein to like King's Row and certain points like maybe Sanctum on the pole, although Orisa's a really strong pick there too. But anyway you want to get a Zarya going with the Reinhardt is really when you're going to brawl out, and both of them heroes are quite situational actually and going to depend a lot on the map. Now we've been moving towards that, and I said it at the start of this video, but the map is so dependent on the comps that you want to run nowadays that trying to main a hero is kind of more difficult than it ever was, because as the heroes have been more refined, they've also become more niche and specific, and other comps just are better on certain maps. So you want to fit that Rein Zarya in on Attack Kings. It's absolutely amazing for pretty much the whole point. But again, back to that Numbani example, when there's a million enemies on the high ground, pushing up there with the Rein's difficult with Junkrat being so strong, so you're going to want to take them dive options and Farah and Mercy on attack on a map like Numbani all the time. And that's just how that's going to be as it is. If you try and run Roadhog, Rein and Mccree, you're going to have a much better time than if you just dive at the enemies. It's as simple as that really. Now Orisa's going to be slightly weaker in this meta with Mercy being slightly weaker, but the bunker comp is really good in matchmaking, particularly when you put a Roadhog behind it, so I would put them two tanks in the category of pretty much in the same place. And as you're noticing a trend here is a lot of the heroes are really good, probably the most viable heroes ever. It's more about the comp that you build around them. Zarya, be careful, very bad with Orisa, but very good with Reinhardt. The Zarya Winston combo of dive comp isn't really a thing anymore though, so she's not really in a great place either, more in the very niche tank slot if you ask me. Winston and D.Va, well, what do I say? They're both amazing. D.Va's an absolute tank. She can just destroy things to protect the right damage whenever you needed to, and Winston's bubble's amazing for blocking off them lines of sight. Now let's move on to the most interesting category, and that is the DPS. And the reason I say it's interesting is because it's really going to be defined this time round, we believe at least, by the big decisions you make on what DPS you take and the individual impact that they can have. So let's talk about Sombra for a second. Sombra is already destroying matchmaking games and being run at the pro level, and the reason is because her hack is so fast, she can hack pretty much anything before it can ever do damage to her. Reinhardt's shield can actually be hacked kind of through the barrier, for example, so even though Rein's kind of moved up, with Sombra in the game, even on some of their maps where he's good, she's just going to hack the barrier and he's not going to be able to do anything. This of course goes for loads of heroes in the game. She can just be alive forever and be in the back line for all of time, and especially in the matchmaking meta, you can kind of run her in any slot. She definitely fits more in the DPS slot now because the utility of hacking packs isn't as good. but the fact that she can just keep EMPing and flanking round and getting a pick off and hacking the Zen, it's a really obnoxious playstyle, and honestly, it's good to see. But I think people are going to get very bored of it very quickly, and I could just see her being nerfed, and I don't want that, but it's something I could see happening for sure. And Sombra's the top of the meta pick in matchmaking if you're good enough with her, because again, she's not easy. She's one of the easier DPS picks, but you still need to be able to have that good tracking to burst something down in an instance. Now, talking of bursting something down, Doomfist keeps getting quality of life changes, and they are all making him a little bit better every single time. Now, even more than Sombra, of course, he requires a lot of skill, great positional timing, awareness, all of that good stuff. You have to be on it with Doomfist, but for him to be able to just come in, uppercut, shoot you in the face 2 times and you die, and then he just punches away, that's something I'm seeing a lot in matchmaking, and even at like Masters games, you think you'd be able to just counter a Doomfist. It really isn't that simple at the minute, and he keeps getting better and better, and even now on the PTR, there's more changes to make him more reliable, and Doomfist is another go-to pick if you're good enough. But let's talk about the reliable ones a bit more. Tracer is of course still in a really good place, and I don't think she's ever going to go anywhere. I don't think Blizzard want her to. She stays alive forever and kills things. Tracer's still a great pick. Just be careful if they're running quad tank, then maybe she isn't, unless you're running a very split comp around the enemies. Unfortunately, Mccree and Widow have fallen down a little bit in the meta lineup just because that Mercy isn't as strong, and Mercy really propped up them 2 heroes in a big way. They're still going to be great if your aim's amazing and if you're on the right comp, but you're not going to want to run them on the wrong map, or maybe on Widow on defense is even harder now, unless you convince someone to take that Mercy, but it really requires someone to pick around a Mccree and a Widow more than the other DPS, because a lot of the others are interchangeable. Now, Hanzo's going to be getting a rework, so we won't talk too much about him, but Junkrat is still absolutely amazing on attack and defense anywhere with a slightly narrow line of sight. Junkrat's amazing. His Riptire's amazing. Do I need to say any more? Jakrat's in the chat. Like, it's so good. He does so much damage all the time, and he's very easy to play as well. Genji, similar to Tracer, still right towards the top of the meta. Mei is one that I'm a little bit disappointed with because we knew they were changing it. She can fire more now and she freezes things for longer, but she's not really any better, unfortunately. And other than, again, the niche situation on a choke point, Mei's not going to be a go-to pick. Torbjorn's also going to be getting a rework, so we won't talk too much about him. He's okay on some maps at some ranks, but really, you probably want to stray away from him. Bastion down in the meta, of course, because the Mercy prop-up isn't the same. Heroes like Pharah, Reaper, Soldier, really strong in the right places. Soldier more so because he can heal himself and keep up with that tac visor, of course, which is a great ultimate even to this day. So with all of these heroes being super viable at once, what it does is it opens up a meta where the comps you run on the maps, as I said at the start of the video, really has to define the heroes that you play, because if it doesn't and the enemy team do that, you're always going to run into problems. One-tricking or even knowing just a couple of heroes may not be enough if this meta persists to be very map dependent. That's where Blizzard have admitted that it needs to be, so that's what they're working towards, and I think that that's what we should all be trying to do in our games. So guys, let us know what you think in the comment section down below. Who are you going to be running with for the next month or two? And what do you hope for some of the changes that we know are coming to Sim, Torb and Hanzo? Be sure to drop a like, as it really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. And you're going to want to hit that bell icon so you get notified when our videos go live. Should I have a great day as always. Take care and peace, people.